when you become a publicly traded company, you actually have a fiduciary responsibility to take care of the investors. The second component to this is if you look at their P&Ls, because now they're publicly traded companies, 5% to 10% of their budget is for R&D, which is research and development. You would think that, like, how much do you think they would be spending to make this food healthier? Like, but if your responsibility is to make this company profitable, you're oftentimes spending research and development to making that food more addictive. So
but most people don't even know that that's happening to them.
They also think they can beat it, which is silly. It's like saying, "Hey, LeBron, one-on-one, let's play 21. Like, I can beat you." No, he's worth millions. He's $1 billion worth, right? You can't beat him. And thinking you can beat processed foods,
right? Because there's so much money went into making that food that addictive.
So, like, when would you pivot? You're like, okay, what I'm doing now is not working. When do you know it's like the right time to pivot?
Yeah, I think that depends on your.
You ever feel like you have been working super hard at the gym, but you're just not seeing the weight change, the body fat change? And today, Keith and I are going to be going over why that may be occurring and some of the misconceptions about losing body fat. But we also want to go over a little bit of some tactical pieces to this so you can make progress as you continue your health and weight loss and body fat loss journey. Keith, welcome back, man.
Glad to be back.
All right. So guys, we didn't really prep for this. This is the first time we are doing kind of a scriptless version of this podcast. And if it turns out bomb, give us a like. If it turns out trashy,
we'll go back to our notes.
We'll go back to the notes.
Thumbs down.
But we want to do it more authentic, more free speaking, so you guys can kind of get almost a sneak peek on how we conversate around this particular topic, because I think this is a topic that I get a lot. And I've personally struggled with for years as a trainer and as an athlete. And I feel like I have some sort of knowledge now around this that I can constantly replicate with my clients and myself. And I'm able to make those progress pretty much on a snap.
Yeah, I think everybody, or at least every kind of trainer, has been through this either themselves. Well, I think everyone's been through this themselves. Everyone kind of has that little breakout point where they realize kind of like the key that was missing, and then they train other people that go through the same exact thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let's go over some misconceptions, maybe some myths that we've practiced, that people probably have practiced, that just doesn't work. Let's talk about some of those tactics.
Yeah, I think just kind of the big difference between losing weight and losing body fat are very different things. And they have two different approaches. And a lot of the times, like we were talking about, is a lot of the times you start in a weight loss journey.
And what's that like?
And that could just be it's simple concept, but it's easy. It's easier said than done, but it's the concept of just like moving more, eating less, cleaning up your diet, like kind of like the level 1 stuff. And that can help you lose a lot of weight. And then you get to the point where it's a part of your lifestyle. It's a part of your habits. You know how to work out consistently. You know how to work out very hard. And then you kind of hit this plateau where you want to now change your body appearance. And that's kind of a whole different approach that you have to take. You still have to use the same habits and strategies, but you have to progress them. And you can't just consistently be doing the same thing once you move, goals.
Yeah. It's like that whole concept, the way you do one thing, right? It may start out one way, but then it's not going to work for the next step.
Yeah. It's everything works. Not everything works forever.
Right.
That's like, I love that quote.
Sounds way better.
Yeah, I love that one too, because that happens here. And I think when we see a lot of clients, it's normally they want to lose weight. Yeah. And then they do lose weight and they're happy, and now they want other goals. Yeah.
So what's the contrast? Because you said you have a client that's, say, 20, 30 pounds overweight. How is your first protocol for that? And then they lose the 30 pounds. How does the protocol change for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think of it as, and I try and explain it like this, where it's like, if if you could just continue to work out and do whatever diet that you're currently doing, continue that forever and continue to make improvements to your body, then every single person that you see at the gym would have an 8-pack and be absolutely shredded.
Yeah.
Because I could go to a regular gym right now and I could see people that have been there consistently every single day for the past 5 years, and they all look the same.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they're healthy, which is great. They're in the gym. They're healthy. Maybe they came a long way. Maybe they lost 100 pounds or something amazing, but they're kind of just still doing the same thing, right. And then not seeing any progression there.
100%. Yeah. Like the first 30 pounds or the first 50 pounds, the way you do that oftentimes is just moving more, just like what you said, right? And typically the weights are fairly low, higher rep range, 12 reps, 15 reps, 30 reps. And you actually just start seeing the scale move. The problem is when people stop seeing that body fat loss is they continue to just do the high level volume, high level cardio, thinking that it's going to get them to reduce more body fat. And what I find oftentimes is they actually just either stay where they're at or they start to accumulate body fat just in general because they're just doing longer workouts.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like, I have to eat less and less and less. And then you're not eating enough to support any sort of like muscle growth at all.
Yeah.
And you just can't keep removing calories because what do? Just get to zero?
Yeah.
And just not eat anymore. It's just like, it doesn't work that way too. So it's a bit of like a mental shift once you get to that point. But there's probably one like big reason as to why you are not seeing the continuous change.
Yeah.
And everyone's is going to be different, but there's some big ones.
What are some of those big ones?
Yeah. So I just personally, because of course I went through this too, like we did my whole story last time and it was like, I lost 50 pounds right, like within the first 6 months, like right off the bat. And that was just, I mean, just going to the gym, working out. Like, I don't even know if, like, looking back at it, I don't even think it was that intense. I just stopped eating terrible.
Yeah.
And that was enough to, like, because of where I was at. And then you got to find the different strategies. So for me, it was like I was eating fairly well 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And then I would just have like a massive cheat day. It was Sunday cheat days. And I would just like eat anything I wanted on that day. And that I would eat so much on that day that it was actually setting me back on all the other days too. And it'd be a cheat day. So that was like cheat breakfast, cheat lunch, cheat dinner. So that was just an entire day where it was just like I was taking, 3 steps forward and then 3 steps backwards and kind of just ending off at the same place every single week. So that was a huge one. Cheat days. Cheat meals are okay. But I was just letting loose one day completely, and that wasn't getting me anywhere after a while.
And that's just like one of the biggest things that you notice.
Yeah. Yeah. That was definitely one of them. And then at first, like I said, it was a little bit easier to kind of lose the weight. So I didn't need to track anything. It was just like, don't go to McDonald's today. Like that was like a big win. But then once I started like, okay, why am I not seeing the results? And then I got into some tracking and then just kind of like some eye-opening stuff that you don't even know that you're doing. Yeah. And then you track for a day or two. Not saying that everyone has to track because that could be good for some people or it could kind of set them back a little bit. But just awareness of just like, what am I actually eating? Like peanut butter. Yeah. Like this is such a small example, but like I love peanut butter and like what I thought was a tablespoon was absolutely not a tablespoon. Yeah. And then I'd have 4 tablespoons and that's probably like 500-600 calories right there in peanut butter that I was eating alone.
And then carne asada fries.
Yeah. And then like that was the Sunday. So like you put all that together. It's just like those little things along the way. Because for me, and I think this ends up happening to a lot of people, especially the type of person or situation we're talking about right now where you're already going to the gym and you're struggling to see it gets easy to work out. Yeah. The diet's always the hard part. Yeah. For most people. So you think you're working hard because you're doing all the workouts, but you're not working hard on the details on the diet.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what it was.
I think one of the biggest concepts when people are like they're really heavy at one point and then they start to lose all that weight, you're actually doing a lot of weightlifting. Meaning that we did a workout a while back with the coaches. I was like, guys, let's put on a 40-pound weight vest on and let's all work out in it. Right? I was like, that's how some of your clients are.
Yeah.
And that's why they're significantly changing, because your push-up is 40 pounds lighter than theirs. And you have to attribute that part as also a little bit of weightlifting. So actually where they are, they might actually be burning a little bit more because they're just using more of their body. It's just that much harder.
And then you lose that weight and you're not that heavy anymore. So you're not burning as many calories.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I always joke about it. I have the best calves because I was just really large, and my calves got to work out every single day just from me walking around.
Right.
And it's just like when you're that heavy, everything is kind of challenging.
Yeah.
So if you look at that kind of like daily, burn of calories, like it's going down as you went through that weight loss phase, and now the same things just aren't going to cut it.
Yeah, you can't be walking the same amount of distance thinking that it's going to be the same, even though walking is such a pivotal piece to this.
Yeah, you could do the same body weight workout a year ago when you were 50 pounds heavier, and you do that same body weight workout today, and you burned so much more calories last year than you did this year.
Exactly.
So of course, that progression in the gym has to be there, which I think is another thing where people will just, this is the routine that helped me lose weight, so I'm sticking with it. And they don't progress either the weights or just make things harder on themselves. They think, this is what brought me here, and I'm just going to continue to do it because I saw results, but it doesn't work that way.
So when would you pivot? So like, when would you pivot? You're like, okay, what I'm doing now is not working. When do you know it's like the right time to pivot?
Yeah, I think that depends on your goals, but from what I've seen, especially like with the success I've had with some of my clients, they lose the weight, and at first they're just, I want to be healthy, I want to lose some weight. Then they see the success and they're like, okay, now I want this certain look, or now I want to change my body. Or the classic example is like, okay, now I want abs, right? So first, that has to be a goal of yours, right? Because if you lose 100 pounds, that's amazing. And if you want to just stay that body weight and you're healthy, and that's amazing. Like, you don't always have to progress. But most of the time you get that kind of itch where you're like, wow, look how far I've come. Yeah. I never thought I would have abs. Maybe I can get abs. And then that becomes your goal, or whatever it may be. So once that goal is set, then I think there needs to be a based on your goal, that would be the pivot. And then I think there could be another pivot kind of later down the road where, say that's your goal. Now we're looking at like a couple months that have gone by and you don't see any abs. You're not gaining weight, but you're kind of staying the same. Then there's another pivot that kind of has to come. Where it's like, okay, this old plan, or this, what made me lose that weight, this isn't going to work to get me to the next level.
Yeah. I think if you're stalling for 30 days, I think it's time to pivot.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been tracking fairly well, you understand some sort of nutrition.
Yeah. And you got to be honest with yourself too.
Yeah.
I think that's really hard, because you can say I'm 30 days in, but were you really locked in for 30 days?
Yeah.
Or were you locked in for a week and then went to a Christmas party or something like that? Like, were you really, really locked in? Because if you're 100% or even 80% dialed in and a month has gone by, then it's time to pivot.
Right.
But if you're just kind of, doing what you used to do, where you're not tracking or you're not taking it like super serious, like you got to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
I love it. Yeah. One of my biggest ones, if someone wanted to lose a significant amount of body fat, I look at the ratio of how much processed foods they have, like ultra processed. I mean, there's processed foods, and then there's like super ultra processed foods, and then there's whole foods. Like, what is the ratio?
Yeah.
And I say this is such an important piece because I find a lot of times they are working out really hard. Maybe they're even doing good weightlifting, they're adding muscle, but 80% of their foods are just processed, right? So one thing that people don't understand, like, about processed foods, one, I used to hate it, but then hating something actually didn't work long-term for me. the way I started to actually understand processed foods was when I started to have a compassionate feel around it. And what I mean by this, here's outside of food and calories. When you become a publicly traded company, you actually have a fiduciary responsibility to take care of the investors. Okay, that's one concept.
Okay.
Right? Once you're public, we'll get to something here.
Yeah.
Okay. The second component to this is if you look at their P&Ls, because now they're publicly traded companies, 5% to 10% of their budget is for R&D, which is research and development, which is fancy term for like how much, for the most part, research development is like, you would think that like, how much do you think they would be spending to make this food healthier? Right? But if your responsibility is to make this company profitable, you're oftentimes spending research and development to making that food more addictive, more profitable. Like how quickly can you make this, instead of the Cheeto hanging there, how quickly can the person grab the Cheeto in 10 seconds? It's the whole Pringles thing. Like have you eaten one Pringle in your whole life? Be weird.
Once you pop, you can't stop.
You really can't stop.
No, you can't.
Yeah, that was the logo. And also that was also the science, most likely the science that they developed. They spent $300 million. If you look at the $7 billion in Kellogg's, $8 billion, I don't know. It's astronomical, but you got to keep in mind that when you're eating processed foods, ultra processed foods, it's very unlikely that you'll not stop eating it. Because they have $700 million of research spent on how to make these foods extremely addictive. And partly because it's their responsibility. If you were investing on Kellogg's, it's their responsibility to make you a return, right? So it's like, okay, now I get that, right? Yeah. Now I get it. I get that
they're doing a good job.
They're doing a great job, right? If I was an investor, I'd be like, thank you for making that. So instead of hating the approach, now I understand it. I was like, okay, because
you used to just get like mad.
I should get mad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know what? That served me for a while. I just decide, but now I'm like, okay, I get it. They're like, it's coming from a different place. So I understand, like if people didn't realize, like processed foods really started happening when we were going in like the war days.
It was the war.
Yeah. Right. So you have to make sure that these foods can at least survive a month, a week. So that's like where it started. And eventually it just became into, it's now 90%, 80% of our foods in grocery markets are ultra processed foods. And if they've been there for longer, guess what? They've become more and more and more and more powerful.
Listen, if you're trying to lose weight, but you're just frustrated because you just can't seem to see any results, we would love to help you out. Now, we've been helping thousands of our athletes over the course of a decade by crafting personalized programs that are not only sustainable, but also effective. Now, if you're ready to transform your health, click on the show notes below, book a call with one of our coaches. We'd love to help you out. Now back to the show. Peace.
So I was like, if you can just change the ratio of the foods that you eat on the processed side to whole food side, you can have a significantly like body fat change over time.
Yeah.
So that's one element because of the not overeating it.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard. Like chips and salsa, I always tell you guys, like I can never just eat half of the chips. I crush the whole thing.
Especially when they put it out before the meal.
Yeah. Dude.
Stop.
Yeah.
They
do the
politely
ratio.
Be like, please don't put chips on the table.
Yeah, they do this like this, the perfect amount of sugar, the perfect amount of salt. It's been like carefully formulated for it to be so addictive. So you're constantly consuming it. It's the reason why pretzels are free in bars.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just like, I want like beer now.
Yeah, the salt makes you want to drink and then you're going to order food because you had a beer and it's Yeah.
So
but most people don't even know that that's happening to them.
100%. And they also think they can beat it, which is silly.
Yeah.
You can't. It's like saying, "Hey, LeBron, one-on-one, let's play 21."
Yeah,
right?
Because I know how you play. I watch you all the time on TV.
Like I can beat you.
Yeah, no.
No, he's worth millions. He's $1 billion worth, right? You can't beat him. and thinking you can beat processed foods.
Right, because there's so much money went into making that food that addictive.
They're the LeBron James of and that's like, once you understand that concept.
I never even thought of it from like a business side.
The business side, people don't. And, and it's like, it's why I don't eat, like for me now, it's why I don't eat processed foods more sustainably, because I understand the industry part, right? The fiduciary part, right? So I get that. I'd rather operate from that instead of just like, I hate all foods.
Yeah.
So when you start seeing it from that point of view, I think it's I don't know. I feel like I don't. Hate has something that's a really dark energy, but it's also repelling energy, and it's
I never like even looked at it like I hate foods that are delicious.
Yeah.
I never even looked at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, because that's, to me, that's like you're blaming McDonald's because they're delicious. It's like they didn't deliver it to, like, I went there.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's like I get that you can look at it where it's just like more like now you hate it for other people.
Right.
Because now you see these people that don't have the awareness and they don't understand why they're opening up a bag of chips and they're not stopping.
Yeah. And the other side to it is like, I understand me telling Keith, hey, Keith, just stop eating the chips. I was like, bro, you don't even attempt eating the chip. But here's the reason why it's hard for you to even just eat one.
Yeah. I will tell you this. Right? I do feel bad sometimes where, like, if somehow something like that makes its way into my house, like, I'll throw it out.
Yeah, you don't even try it.
And I'll try one.
Yeah, oh,
but wow. To prevent me from going, like, I have to throw it out, and then that makes me kind of feel bad that I'm throwing out food.
Why? Why do you feel that?
It's just like a waste of food. Like someone like, but I guess it's bad for everyone. Mm-hmm. But like, for the fundraiser, we made some not healthy treat, and there was pretzels, and like just plain pretzels are like, I ate one. And I was like, can we throw these out? And it's like, I hate throwing out food, but I can't have that in the house.
Yeah.
Because even me, who I have great habits and my diet's pretty on point, but I can't have it there.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I want to dive onto that real quick because I tell my clients the same thing. When we have these massive potlucks, families, not everyone's bringing the healthiest food, and you're always left with leftovers. Mm-hmm. And people struggle with throwing all of that stuff away.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a client because she had the same feeling. Big Filipino family. They always have a lot of foods. And the way I equated it, because if you think about it, like these Franken foods are extremely addictive. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think they're more addictive than some drugs that we have currently. Oh, yeah. Right? So I told him, this is kind of extreme, but it actually worked really well. It was like, hey, listen, let's just say someone had some leftover heroin.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? I don't want to waste the heroin. I'm going to give it to somebody else.
And it's so expensive.
I don't want to waste it. It's so expensive. I was like, sure, just give the heroin to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's how I equate a lot of my leftover foods that typically don't have any nutritional value, no health value, no caloric value even.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm just like, I'm not going to pass this drug to somebody else. Right? Because I wouldn't want someone to pass their heroin to me. Right? It's pretty extreme.
But
right,
it's the same concept. It really is.
It is, because it's $700 million worth of research on that food. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So
it's almost worse, because I've never thought about doing heroin before, but I have eaten a lot of sugar, and like it does, and it doesn't. Of course, it's not the same, but like sugar could end up ruining your life.
It's just more long term.
Yeah.
Right. It's just because we don't see it happening short term destructive like some of these really hard drugs.
Yeah.
But dude, you've been a trainer long enough to see these athletes, their A1C levels just constantly decrease. It's because of this constant abuse of sugars, right? They're really, really tough people too. I would consider them extremely, extremely disciplined people. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, they can't not have sugar.
Yeah.
Which one blew my mind for the longest time, because they're the most disciplined, but I also understood.
Oh, there's professional athletes that,
dude,
just and Larry, there's going to be a point where those professional athletes stop playing their sport, and then they can't stop eating the sugar or the fast food. And I mean, there's NFL players that show up to game day with a bag of McDonald's in their hand and candy, and it's like, it's okay now because of how active they are, but there's going to be a point where they stop, and they're probably not going to change the eating behavior.
Because it's so addictive.
Yeah, it really is.
Right?
But no, that's a great way to look at it. The heroin one is, I might use that one next time.
It is, and it's like, it's so, and sometimes you have to use extreme metaphors to get them through, to be like, it's okay. Like, listen, if people were really starving, we wouldn't have like 2/3 of our society would be really, really small. Like, if you really want to help the starving, you should be investing more money into South Africa.
And it's like, if you throw it out or keep it, the starving people aren't getting it anyway, 100%. Because you're gonna eat it. Yeah, it's not like you're donating it.
Yeah, it's not like they'll be like, please, your pen pal in South Africa is like, hey, please eat that donut for me because I can't have it.
Yeah, I can't. No,
no one's gonna say that way. Yeah, so it's just manufactured cultural, just these huge cultural thoughts that we've been led to believe. And I lived in that too, because I was in Philippines for such a long time, and like, we didn't have a lot of food, so that took me a long time. That's why you see a lot of immigration Filipinos get so large. It's because they've been
finally have access to the food.
Yeah, they're like, don't waste any food. And I was like, dude, how can you waste? Like, it's impossible.
Yeah, my immigrant grandmother is probably the reason I gained so much weight when I was younger, because she kept overfeeding me. Yeah, it's just how it is.
So that's one of the biggest things is. Yeah. I wanted to touch up on that
another quick one too, and just because of the type of person that we're talking about is not the person that's so far behind and all they do is eat ultra processed foods. Mm-hmm. The really like tricky one, the double-edged sword that I have a problem with is the ultra processed healthy stuff. Right. Like protein bars. Yes. And like protein shakes and like all these things that like probably from like, so a normal jump would be like, okay, I have a Snickers bar as a snack. I am really just, I eat ultra processed food. I'm really out of shape. I start working out. I make some changes. I substituted my Snickers bar now for a Quest bar. Yeah. Quest bars are delicious. Yeah. And then after a while, like that makes a difference, right? Because obviously that's a better choice. Right. But the Quest bar is also super ultra processed and also really addicting.
It's formulated to be
really so then, I have healthy snacks in my house, but they're also super addicting, and they're kind of the same thing. And they're also made with all that stuff that you were talking about, like the high fructose corn syrup, the seed oils, all that stuff.
It's the sodium content.
And then you start to trick yourself where you're like, oh, this is a protein snack. Yeah. This is good for me. And then you end up overeating those too. Right. And they just keep getting better and better. Like they have like protein Pop-Tarts and all these things that are like, they're a good substitute for the real thing. Yeah. But then you find yourself just like eating the if it fits your macros style, and you're just eating all these ultra processed foods because they're geared toward people who work out.
100%.
Those get me.
They get you, even all the way to the coloring of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was just walking by the chips aisle, and I saw Himalayan salt chips. And it was like, and for us, we're like, okay,
so
we need sodium. So healthy.
Yeah, so healthy.
And then you look at it, and you're like, oh, snap. They know who their target market is. This is how much R&D. That's what I mean. Yeah. I was like, it only attracted me, no one else in that. I was like, just the way it was colored.
Even like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, like I mentioned the peanut butter thing. Like that's a big weakness of mine. Mm-hmm. It's like peanut butter, almond butter. Mm-hmm. And then you think you're making a huge jump by just getting the more expensive one at Whole Foods. And then when you turn around the thing, it's got the seed oils in it, and it's the same exact thing, but it just says organic on it. So you think you're making like a huge choice, but you're still eating ultra processed stuff all the time.
Dude, and here's another thing. Now I'm like drawing back from the old protein bars that remember the old protein bars that had like 36, 37 grams of protein?
Oh my God. Remember the giant Metrex bars?
They were,
I used to think those were so healthy for you. Yeah. They're like they're meal replacements. They're 500 calories, and they taste like any other dessert.
Oh, man. I used to eat those. But dude, then here's what I think. The big gram ones tasted like poop to me.
Oh,
like when it started to exceed somewhere around 30 plus, you just felt like it was powder.
What were the old?
Right.
I'm trying to think. What were those old? Like one of the first protein bars, and they were
I don't know,
super
but they were
hard.
disgusting, though.
They were like hard Play-Doh almost.
Yeah. But you know what? I think those actually might been healthier because of the protein ratio.
Probably.
And if you look at it now, it's less and less. They're like cutting it, like half carbs, half.
Yeah.
Those are the
and then
most
they do
addicting.
that trick where they do net carbs.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, so much fiber in it. You're not eating any carbs with this.
Yeah.
But you are. It's
Yeah.
like, man, I'm trying to think of what those old bars were. They were awful.
But yeah, they've switched it. And again, the more in research development you spend, it's getting closer to this food that is extremely addicting that you're going to constantly buy. So knowing this, guys, I want to give you some tactics really quick. You know it's ultra processed when it could stay in your pantry for like a year long. Okay, so like one tactic that you can do is just buy foods that could only be on the right side of your fridge.
Yep.
Right? If they're frozen too, I think they're borderline. A lot of them are ultra processed, unless they're like frozen vegetables, frozen fruits. Those are a little bit different. So spend a majority of your time like eating foods that are on the right side of your fridge.
Yeah. The other one I like is you shop the perimeter of the supermarket.
100%.
Because all the ultra processed stuff are in the aisles in the middle.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that can go bad is on the outside.
Yeah. There are even some places now, they're like putting some of the dessert stuff on the perimeters.
Oh,
because they
know that people are doing.
Yeah.
They know. All right, then scratch that idea.
Yeah, but
someone spent a lot of money to figure out that people are trying to be healthy and they only do the perimeter. So now they're trying to put the snacks on the outside. Dude,
I've had clients lose so much weight just with this shift of just moving to Whole Foods. Yeah. And I haven't even been like, hey, I'm not limiting. I don't even limit them. It's like, just eat Whole Foods.
Yeah.
That's why the Whole30 concept works so well.
It works so well. Yeah, this is another thing. And remember at the beginning, we said we did not prep for this. So this could be wrong. It's going off the top of the head. Yeah. But there's something I heard where there's like a 20 to almost 30% room for error on the nutrition labels.
Oh, it's 100%. Yeah.
So you could look at something that says 100 calories, but it really could be 150.
Or it could be 80.
Or like, so you actually, and then some people will, track their calories and, I only ate 2,000 calories today. But if everything you ate had a label on it and it's 30% off, you really don't know what you ate. It's if you're using Whole Foods, it's very hard to be inaccurate that way.
And if you're running on the 500 caloric deficit method, which is pretty sound, right? Like it just throws it all off.
Yeah.
So which is a huge
concept and then the worst thing is when you think you're in a deficit and you're not.
Yeah.
But that comes with a lot of like trial and error experimenting. Like you and I will know when we're in a deficit.
Right.
We'll feel it. We don't have to look at the label sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you think you're on a diet, you think you're in a 500 calorie deficit every single day and you have like tons of energy and you're crushing every single workout, like you're probably not in a deficit. Yeah. But that's 100%. Just, again, like if you've never done it before or never like gotten that detailed on your diet, you really don't know.
Yeah. And here's the other side. On the whole food side, how much apples and berries and steaks can you really eat? Is it that extremely addictive? At some point, you're just like, I'm just full. Like trying to eat 3 apples, it's insane.
I always give the banana analogy. It's like I've like not too many people will eat a second banana.
No, not at all.
It's just because like it's just like nature gave it to us in that little package. Like that's enough. We know when it comes in a giant bag and you look at the bag and the label says that the bag is actually 7 servings. How could you tell? Yeah. This is one bag. I'm going to eat the whole bag.
Right.
So it's like, it's just easier to do it. Yeah. And it's like,
again, it's formulated to
it's the same way with any whole food, really. Yeah. Like I love steak, but like,
you can't eat like 3.
Yeah, like I probably could eat 3, but like I would have to force it.
But it's not good. The third one is just it's not better than the first one.
It's not. The second one, the third steak, it won't be as good as the first one.
Right.
With the ultra processed food, every single bite is just as amazing.
that's the whole concept. And that's why like most people are not losing fat, primarily because their ratio is extremely off.
Yeah.
Right. And it's designed that way. So just by this little shift of moving to more regular foods, I'm telling you, like, you'll lose. If we both just start eating just vegetables, fruits, and meats, shred city.
Yeah.
Right. Along with all of our exercises.
Yeah. It's just, it obviously, like, besides how good it tastes, like, there's a reason why everyone eats stuff in packages, and because it's convenient. And we have busy lives, and it's very easy to just stop off and grab a snack rather than prepping a whole meal. So like we understand why, but if you just try it for a couple weeks and then you see the difference that it makes, like, that could potentially like shift your whole mindset on it.
It's pretty huge, man. Yeah. So another thing that I think it's worth to discuss is the hormonal side to this. Like, when you're eating real foods, your gut health becomes extremely healthy.
Yeah.
Right. And if you look at some of the science, I was listening to a Huberman podcast, a majority of your serotonin is made in the stomach, right? In that lining. So when you're consuming ultra processed foods, it's showing that you're not, like, the serotonin levels are just not spiking. Like, mostly whole foods are actually creating that. And if you guys want to know what serotonin is responsible of, it's responsible for sleep, right? It's responsible for a lot of mood balances and stress and all of these things. And again, if you're eating all these ultra processed foods, you're not getting that. But if you're getting
dopamine hits.
You're getting massive dopamine. So
every single time you eat a bite, you're getting that, but you're not getting what's really important there.
Right. You're destroying these endorphins and dopamine and serotonin. Like, it's just all over the place. So another side is the dopamine. You're getting all these dopamine releases, but after you get all these dopamine, how likely are you motivated to go to the gym?
Yeah.
You're not. Like, it's like you're like, I'm good. You get dopamine releases from actually going to the gym.
Yeah.
Right. But it takes a long time. You actually have to work out really hard, and then you get this dopamine release instead of eating this potato chip that you can get almost instantly.
Exactly.
So again, another reason why shifting ultra processed to whole foods,
and I would say that
game changer.
Also, just because, like, there's barriers there. Like I was saying, it's easier. Everyone's busy type of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people will give you the financial side of it. Like,
right.
It's too expensive. The ultra processed stuff is cheap.
Yeah.
It's true. And it is, like, a little bit more of a financial thing, but, like, it also doesn't mean that you have to shop at Whole Foods in these expensive places. Like, you can still be on a decent budget and do Whole Foods.
100%.
Like, it doesn't have to be the most expensive things possible, but you'd be really surprised if you do it for long enough and you realize, like, how easy and how cheap it really can be. You go to Costco, you get, for your meat, something like that, like rice, like is very cheap. Like,
you can last you for
people
months.
get very intimidated, or maybe it's just like subconsciously their excuse. It's too expensive for me. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But there's ways around it. There's ways to be, like, Walmart is, like, incredible lately. Like, everything's like organic, and, like, they're like, it's not what it used to be, and it's way cheaper. So there's ways around it for those people that their first thing is, like, it's too expensive. I can't do it. I have to buy the cheap ultra processed stuff. You don't.
Yeah. And it's expensive relatively in short term. It's actually more expensive long term.
Hospital bills are very expensive.
Hospital bills, ER bills, your insulin, you're like, right? Like, insurance, your insurances go higher because they're like, dude, I don't really want to, like, your insurance rates are going to go way high.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, if I understand that concept, so I always let my clients know, is like, yes, it's going to be expensive theoretically, short term, but very inexpensive. In fact, it becomes an investment long term. 100%. And let me explain why. Number one, you're less weight. You're more productive at work, right? You're more desirable for your spouse, so you might not get a divorce.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's
That's
like
expensive too.
Yeah. And then your mind is clear, so you're able to do these projects, and then you get a promotion.
People just refuse to kind of connect the dots on those things.
They refuse it, and that's why we're here, to connect the dots for them.
Yeah. I mean, like most ultra successful people are in shape.
And most ultra successful people have trainers.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, when I become ultra successful, I'm going to hire a trainer.
And that does happen too,
yeah.
But not everyone can get there.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Bezos, like he became a billionaire and then he got shredded.
Yeah.
I mean, if that works out for you, it does, but not everyone can get ultra successful.
Yeah.
So then what do? You're just chasing success and you're overweight and you can't get there because brain fog every day. You're too tired to do anything. It's like,
yeah.
And then it doesn't work out for you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
It's just sad because the intent is probably there, but it's just like, it's not the best plan.
Mm-hmm. What are your clients that are training with you? Historically, are they making less money training with you, or are they making more money as they're with you longer?
Oh, yeah, it's almost everybody that I see ends up getting in shape, ends up being more successful. Yeah. It's not like, oh, you're gonna get a six pack and be a millionaire, but it's like you end up getting like a better job, a promotion, or just like if you're in some kind of job where you're an entrepreneur, you make money for yourself, like you start to grow.
Yeah.
Or you really just start to see like you get more confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. It's like, all right, I haven't been able to lose weight for 10 years. I finally proved to myself that I can do it.
Yeah.
This means that I can do this other goal at work that I've been telling myself that I can't do.
Dude, I've had clients, they started shifting the word expense to an investment towards their health, that they started investing in properties, that they started investing in index. They started investing. They take kind of what they're learning. And a lot of times they're just like, dude, it sounds crazy, but I'm actually saving more money being healthy than not. Right. And here's the reason why I'm not Uber Eats eating every time. I'm not drinking any more alcohol. Yeah. Right. I'm not going any fast foods. I'm actually like making foods, out partying. Right. So it's like, and then they have all this extra money and they're like, what do I do with this? Like, I'm not buying any more sodas. And it's just and then they're not eating as much because they don't need as much. Yep. So over time, that is a common barrier.
Ultra processed, or the shift from the processed foods to the whole foods, like that, you end up stop eating out as much. Like even if it's whole foods, like that those places you're ordering Uber Eats from, like they have all the stuff in there that you're trying to avoid, and that is a huge expense for most people. Yeah, eating out.
Yeah, and sometimes like, do you ever eat out now and you're like, man, this is like too sweet?
Or I'm just like, that was so expensive. I could have made a better version of
you get home. Mad.
Like, right? I get mad at that. And I'm like, this is, and I don't know. I'm weird too though, because like I could eat, like I enjoy every meal equally. Yeah. But that's just me. Like I can go to like a 5-star restaurant or like whip up ground beef and rice in my house, and like I'm just as happy. Yeah. Like, but I don't know if everyone's like that, but yeah, you start to realize like even that stuff is so addicting.
Yeah. So like one thing that people should know, if you are going to move from ultra processed to more whole foods, is you do have this at first. I want to say like the first month, maybe the first 2 weeks, your palate resets. And it's like, it sucks. Like an apple doesn't taste that good. A banana doesn't taste that good. A pickle doesn't taste good. Meat doesn't taste good because you're eating chips and salsa every day. Those are delicious. But then the moment you like don't eat that for 30 days, a pickle tastes good.
I had a piece of candy on Halloween.
Yeah.
A little bite-sized one. Yeah. I was like, it was like the best tasting thing ever. And I knew it's just because like I don't eat it a lot. And I'm just like, okay, and that was another instance we threw the rest of our candy out because that was one of those, like, I just have to try it because it's been a while, but it's like, it just tastes so different. Yeah. From the normal things that I eat. Yeah. That it was like almost scary. Like I could just sit there and eat that whole bowl. Yeah. But it definitely resets your palate. That's why I really think that everything I eat tastes good. Yeah. Because I limit it so much.
Yeah. Like anytime I'm eating, I know I'm doing something right when like a berry tastes like the tastiest thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the best berry I ever had. If it's not pleasing to me, I need to chill out on my processed foods. Right. So that's like a major.
The other day.
You're like, wow.
And I was just like, wow, like
this is heaven.
This is unbelievable. this is just tastes like the Halloween candy.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. No, that's the thing, and it's sad too, because like when your palate is so fatigued from all the good stuff, like you eat a strawberry and you're like,
it's like this is poop.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
It takes a while. It takes a while to get there.
That's a great indicator. Okay. So
well,
that's.
I was gonna say the next thing you should talk about too is like. And I don't know if typically this is like just not like when I ask some people like about their diet.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just like they don't tell the truth at the front, like at the beginning. But like a lot of people will say, I don't eat ultra processed stuff. Like I don't snack a ton. Mm-hmm. And they're like, my diet's fairly good. Mm-hmm. But I still can't lose weight. And then. Yeah. Then it's, as a trainer, it's a little bit difficult because you're like, well, is that 100% true? Mm-hmm. Or now we're getting into this like territory of like, it's something else. It's not processed foods that's holding you back. It's something else.
Dude, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think when you get elite at something, it's not one skill that got you there.
Yeah.
It's a set of skills. Like if Steph Curry could only shoot, I don't think he'd be as valuable as he is. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can think at a high level.
And like people just like they think of him and they say, "Oh, it's the shooting that got him there."
Nah, dude, even in the locker room, he's a great leader.
If you actually watch him when he doesn't have the ball in his hand, it's insane. He doesn't stop running. His cardio is insane. But those are like kind of the hidden things,
right? Yeah,
that got him there. And people think that it's one skill that helped them lose the weight, but it was a set of skills.
It's a set of skills. So you show me someone that has a six-pack, I'll show you someone that has a ton of health and nutritional skills that they've mastered over the course of a few years. One of those skills is really shifting from processed to whole foods. That's one of the skills. The second skill, this is one that I feel like a lot of people are not losing body fat, is because they don't spend enough time doing strength training.
Yep.
And I love how you brought that up, because strength training is a huge concept. Like people are spending... You can cut all the way. I do have a limit. So for my ladies, like I try not to get them to go on like their deficits at 1400 max for me. Mm-hmm. That's like my theoretical. So if they're really small, I might even shift it a little bit more, but 1400 seems so small for me. And then for guys, 1600 seems so small.
1400 calories in 5 minutes.
It's so small. So it's like if you're not losing body fat at 1400, and then for guys, 1600, 1800 if they're a little bit larger, then my priority shifts from deficits. It really shifts. It shifts to like, how strong can we get you in the next 90 days, right? And strength is such a huge component people miss, is because like when you have more muscle, you have more metabolism. Just like period. The amount of work to sustain that level of a healthy tissue requires a lot of calories to be burned. But it's very long term. Like getting your deadlift from 100 pounds to 200 pounds will take you 60, 90 days, right? Like, or 200 to 300. And now you're operating
that's
entirely different vehicle.
Yeah,
that's solid.
I wish mine could jump that quick, but
it's
tough. But yeah, when you're like, just like that daily rate of burn, like when you got a lot of muscle on you, like you can sit on the couch all day, burn 2,500 calories just by living. But it's not like that for a lot of people. And I think it's because most of the time, that kind of concept of like what got you to where we're talking about right now, which is like you lost weight.
Yeah.
It was probably a bunch of cardio.
Right.
It was probably sweaty workouts. You were just burning a lot of calories, and that got you here. Mm-hmm. And you can't just continue with that.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, that was that quote. Now it comes up to me. What got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
Right. So now, so let's assume that they are eating pretty whole foods. 80 to 90% of their meals are whole foods. Mm-hmm. Like, what are some of those movements are you thinking about that has like, if you can only choose 3 strength movements that can give you the massive metabolic boost, what would some of those exercises be?
Ooh, just 3 is tough. I think I'll label it down to patterns, just because I think everybody should be doing like a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to just say like squat, bench, deadlift for everyone.
That's what
right?
I would. Yeah,
You
that's like the
squat,
classic.
bench, deadlift? Yeah, I mean that's like
if it was strength, I don't know about bench. I think I would shift the bench one.
What, press?
Yes, yeah, some type of press.
Yeah, I mean you could do that, but like, I don't know.
Or
Maybe
pull-ups.
someone destroys themselves. Like, I mean, that's squatting and deadlifting is not easy, especially if you're pushing it. I was gonna say I would have picked one lower.
Yeah.
Probably a squat.
Right.
And then upper push up, upper pull. So like either a pull up or a press of whatever kind.
Yeah. I would probably say the same thing.
Something like that.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree. You really want to master these 3 movements. Back squatting, a pull up, like get to that might be the pinnacle, but then you should be working yourself to a pull up, right? And being able to regularly do pull ups because, dude, you're doing your weight, and it's a lot, right? Just to do 1 or 5 or 10, or even just ring rows, right? So it's like, and I love the deadlift too, but again, if the person hasn't mastered it yet, it can be pretty destructive for them. So yeah, those are the big 3 for sure. Like build strength for those big 3 movements for the next 90 days and still eat. You don't just like, I'm just going to work on my strength and I'm on a bulk phase.
Oh yeah. I'm just not moving at all.
Yeah.
Cause that's probably a smaller percentage of people, but that happens also.
Yeah. They just shift from one strategy to another. They're like, I'm going to work this skill, but I'm going to neglect this skill. No, you got a skill stack.
Yeah.
And if you start skill stacking, you'll start seeing that body fat loss. So now you mastered the whole food side, and now you're like gradually stronger. Every single week you're getting stronger. And one of those 3 movements or all 3 of those movements, and you'll really start seeing some pretty cool changes.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So why else do you think people don't want to like lift, get strong?
I think it's it's what I said before, where it's like most of the time it was the cardio that got them the weight loss.
Right.
And they think that's what I have to put my energy towards. And then you get the cardio bunnies is what we call them, where it's just like they think that I'm just going to keep burning, and I'm going to lose body fat eventually. And it just doesn't always work like that. Yeah. And your weight could go down, but not your body fat necessarily.
Right.
Like I've seen, like it's pretty amazing, but like there's like marathon runners that have a ton of body fat on them. They
need it, right? That's what people don't understand.
And they care about performance. They don't care about their body. But they have no muscle because muscle is hard to lug around. Yeah. So on purpose. It's very
expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. So they have like, they're skinny, but they're like got that like skinny fat look.
Yeah. And here's the thing, they have the skinny fat look, but most of their fat is like near their muscle group so they can utilize it as energy. They don't have a lot of like visceral fat, right? They much less visceral fat for sure. But again, they need that because for long periods of time, you need a source of energy, and body fat is awesome for that for longer distances. Yeah. Right. So
yeah, it's just, and then you get into that whole kind of like, it's the easiest way to explain it. I don't think it's the correct like or scientific way, but like when you have a broken metabolism,
right?
Where it's just like your body is holding on to everything because it can't keep going at 1,500 calories a day, and you're also doing 1,000 calories on the elliptical every day to try and combat it. It's just like there's going to be a point where it stops. Yeah, and then you're just going to be super under recovered. Right. Yeah. Which probably leads into the next thing that we were going to talk about, which is like stress and sleep and recovery.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Those are some big ones for sure. So they're not doing enough strength. So if you guys are not doing enough strength right now, a really good way is just to start squatting regularly, 2 or 3 times a week.
Something to progress at. Yeah. Because I think that's also one of the things where sometimes just losing weight at the beginning is just, you just do a bunch of stuff and it works. Yeah. But you don't know if you're actually progressing, you're getting stronger, you're like, you're So it's hard.
What are some baseline strength numbers for your athletes that you'd be happy with if you're like, okay, they're strong now. Now we can start skill stacking on another. Like for a squat, how much do you think they should squat?
I think everybody kind of has like a different point. Like there's the classic, 2 times body weight for deadlift, 1.5 for squat. Like you could use those.
Yeah.
But to me, with some of the people, because they start kind of so far back, where it's just like, if they're just like using weight now and they're reaching failure on some sets or close to it, then like we've come a long way.
Right.
Or at least we just know, or they're aware of how much they've grown in that kind of area. But we could always use kind of like the basics. I think just like those, some people are just like real far from that. Yeah. And you don't want to push it too hard because like, some people come for you to weight loss or body fat, and like you don't want to, you're not prepping them for a powerlifting meet or anything like that, but just to get there and be able to just keep pushing it every week, and they'll be really surprised like how much they could make jumps.
Dude, 100%. I have numbers for mine. My numbers are at least their body weight.
At least
that's a start, like comfortably doing their body weight. I'll even keep going. Like I won't do another deficit until they get to the 2x number. Like 2 times body weight, which I think is extremely reasonable, assuming that their mechanics are right. You're working on their imbalances along the way.
Is that for squat or deadlift?
For both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2x their body weight on their squat, 2x their body weight on their deadlift. And here's the reason why. The moment they start going to 3x and 4x is where they get bulky, right? Yeah. So, and that's the other misconception that
the only reason I don't do it is because like sometimes people come at a very high body weight.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're 200 pounds and you can't even do a goblet squat with like a 25-pound kettlebell, like trying to get you to a 400-pound back squat is like, we have other things to work on.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that context. I don't do that until they finish their weight loss goal.
Okay. Yeah,
so like, let's just like, I had a client, an example was he started at 240 and he got down to 180, right? So I was like, okay. Let's jam
imagine
this
like
up.
Day one, he's 240.
No, I just wouldn't. It wouldn't.
We're gonna get you to
so much.
Gonna get you to a 480 back squat.
Yeah,
like, you'd be like, I don't want that.
What's interesting is once he got to 180, he was easily able to squat his body weight. Right?
Oh, yeah,
so that was
same with pull-ups too. Like people think pull-ups are the hardest thing, and it's like, well, lose 20 pounds and pull-ups get easy.
And that's why I go to 2x.
Okay.
And the other side is it's just so much easier to get them to lose body fat. And also it's a long enough program for them to just dig their
I wait till
teeth
they
in.
show interest in the weight.
Oh,
I know what they're progressing in, and one, I think we talked about it once. Like once they kind of have that, like, wait, how much weight did I just do? Like once we see that, then it's like, hey, like, do you know that it's really impressive if you could squat your own body weight? Like you want to try and build towards that. And
when do you start noticing that your clients get bulky? At what X? In terms of weight? This is a common myth, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that like the bulky really exists.
Yeah.
Like they might, I don't think they have the like preconceived notion in their head that if I'm going to get too bulky.
Yeah.
But most of the time, if their goal is fat loss or weight loss, their scale is going to come so far, or it's going to go down where like they're never going to achieve the bulky look.
It's really hard. Yeah.
It's like, I always tell everyone, I'm like, if this, women always kind of have the like, oh, I don't lift weights because I don't want to get bulky. And I'm like, if it was this easy to get bulky, like every guy at the gym would be massive, but it's not. It's not that hard. Like, and especially if they're in a weight loss phase, it's hard to gain a ton of muscle. Like if you're a newbie, you can gain a little bit of muscle, but like if your calories are low, at that point you're really just maintaining the muscle. So you're never gonna get like too bulky. I'll tell you, like if you get too jacked, I'll give you your money back. I promise,
dude.
Like,
it's one of the biggest misconceptions, and I deal with it a lot with women. There's some men for sure, right? They're like, I'm gonna turn into Eddie Hall.
Yeah,
like. As I'm start deadlifting, I was like, my friend, like it's for me to go from 180 to 195, I had to deadlift like 465, which took years, right? And like the amount of food you have to eat to support that level of productivity is so substantial.
Eats like 10,000 calories a day. Like,
and I never got bulky, you know, and same thing with my clients. Like it just doesn't, I've never seen it just go from like, they just turn into Eddie Hall.
No, it's like,
you know, I'm like, no, dude.
If there was a plan to get that bulky that fast, I'd do it.
Dude, it's
possible.
There is, and you have to eat 10,000 calories and not move. You got to do like 5 reps.
And like I said, they're already in a weight loss kind of dieting now, and they've made that shift, so they're not going to get bulky.
And here's what's cool about all those powerlifters: the moment they retire, they either get
it's actually insane.
Yeah, they get so shredded so fast.
They go from like their body weight's like 400 pounds, and then they go to like 300 pounds, and then they have like a 6-pack, and it's
100%.
Like I cut my calories to 5,000 a day.
That's what I
10,000.
mean. And more of a reason why people should be spending much more time strength training.
Yeah.
Right. Assuming if that's what you want to see a 6-pack, you should really shift your programming from cardio to something that has some of those bigger strength movements.
And just like you said too, like that doesn't mean you never do cardio again.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. It's not this world of extremes. Like you still want to keep your cardio up so that you have enough of it to make that strength training better. Yeah. That's another thing. Like, you know, the bros that like
they only do strength,
I can't do cardio. I can't walk. It's too much. Like running loses gains. Like it's just like there's always kind of like a meet in the middle for these things. But the other thing is steps.
There's that's the cardio part. So that's the third part.
That's huge. So if you're moving from that shift from, all right, I'm not going to run anymore. I'm not going to do the elliptical. I'm not going to do like hit every day or whatever it is. I'm going to strength train more. You pair it with high steps, or at least know what your step count is.
That's just the shifting the ratio. I feel like you're right. Like I feel like there's a lot of athletes that go straight to weightlifting, cut out all the cardio, and they don't
they're sitting make progress in between their reps.
Again, they're shifting skills.
Like, it's a big part of it too, and I think that ends up being like a real, like as easy it is to kind of like track what you're eating for a day or two. Tracking, like everybody probably has a device. Everyone has a device that can track their steps for a day. Like you don't have to get obsessed with it, but just see what like a normal, you know, Monday is a normal day. I'm going to work. I'm doing this. Like see what your steps are. Your phone can do it. Your watch can do it. You can buy one for like $5. Like, and just see what your normal steps are. Because a lot of the times the people that do too much cardio, and this actually happened to me personally, there was a point where I was like training for a marathon. Yeah. And I was running a ton. Yeah. And I did 6 weeks and I gained weight training for a marathon. Wow. Which is like almost impossible. Yeah. And then I looked back at what I was doing. The runs were hard. Yeah. So I spent the rest of the day sitting. Yeah. And yes, I was running a ton, but I was like, my behavior started to change. Like it was when I was teaching, and I usually would be standing on my feet all day. And then I found myself like, I ran at 5 a.m. this morning. I'm tired. And then I would be sitting at my desk more. So even though my volume in running was going up like crazy, my daily expenditure was actually going down. Yeah. And I was really, really hungry from all the runs. Right. So I actually started eating more and moving less. Yeah. And my cardio was getting great. I was seeing improvements in my endurance. Right. But that's like mind blowing when you think about it, where it's like, oh yeah, I went from 5 miles to 18. Yeah. And I'm gaining weight. Yeah. And it was because of that. Like the workout itself was too hard, and the rest of my day was sitting around doing nothing. 100%. So that could happen to people too.
There's an episode, we'll link an episode on here, like the 4 buckets of how you burn calories. This is like, there's actually a particular reason for this. A majority of your percentage that you're losing weight, 40 to 50% of it is your metabolism. So if you have a ton of muscle mass, your metabolism is going to be through the roof, 50% of that, right? The other 30%, like the other big 30% is your need activity, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is kind of why we want our athletes to walk, because it's relatively non-exercise. Yeah. Right. And they're moving 30% of your calorie burn throughout the day is through that, right? And then the other, okay, so what's left? It's the other 10%. So there's 10%, which is your foods, which is like your non-processed foods. If you're doing non-processed foods, pretty like you actually burn calories eating particular foods, especially if they're not ultra processed, right? It takes that much more energy to burn them. And then the other 10% is only exercise, 5 to 10%.
Yeah.
And then people think the 5-10%
is the whole deal.
Yeah. But dude, you missed your daily activity. So just by implementing this, so what I do with my clients is like, I just need you to move for 45 minutes, play with your kids for 45 minutes, go dancing with your wife for 45 minutes.
It's so much more sustainable too.
Yeah. Or in between each break, instead of just like popping on your phone, go on your phone, go for a 5-minute walk, accumulate 45 minutes.
The trying to get like a 5 to 10 minute walk after each meal.
Yeah.
I know it's hard because depending on what your job is, but like it's like the trigger is like, oh, I'm done with the meal. I'm just going to go walk for a little bit and that'll get your steps in. It's good for digestion. It's all that. So the steps are huge. And I think that's a lot of the times when you get that client that's like, oh, I eat pretty well. I only eat 2,000 calories a day. I'm not losing any weight.
Right.
And then you know, oh, you got an Apple Watch? Yeah. Oh, like let me be your friend on it. Share me or whatever. And then 3 days go by and they're averaging like 2,500 steps a day.
Yeah, their need activity is nothing.
And it's nothing.
Yeah, which is sad.
Yeah.
Which is why they're not losing a bunch of body fat. If you look at some of the best bodybuilders, and you've probably seen some of the best bodybuilders in the world, they'll do their weightlifting either morning or at night, and then you just see them on a treadmill at like level 3 for walking for an hour.
And like when you first see it, you're like, this guy's so lazy. Like, oh, he can't even run. He's so big. And it's like, no, he's being just really, really like particular on how many steps he takes a day.
Yeah.
And it's easier to, if you're already going to the gym and there's 100 treadmills in the corner, it's easy to, you know, all right, let me walk 2 miles right now and I'm almost there.
100%.
And it depends. I mean, if you have a job that you take a lot of steps in, obviously that counts, but like most people don't. Most people are sedentary at their desks and they're not getting those steps in. So that's what I think, like pedometer for like 3 days.
Just to
see what it is. Like what is your average? And then make sure those days are like the weekend also. Because I know the people that are like Monday through Friday, maybe they're hitting 10,000 and then like Saturday, Sunday, they are on their couch, Netflix all day. And then that really messes up the average.
Yeah.
And that's a huge one. And that's like, that I think should be motivating for people because it's not easy to implement it in your day, but it is easy.
Yeah.
Just go for a walk.
Yeah.
If you're already going to the gym and like, or you can run and you can do all these hard things, like peel it back and just get some more steps in and you could see some huge changes right there.
Dude, it's huge. And again, this is the whole concept we've been talking about, the whole skill stacking thing, right? The first time we get someone that's 30 pounds or 50 pounds overweight, the first thing we implement is steps. We're like, hey, let's get you to 5 to 8K, 10,000 steps. And they instantly lose a decent amount of weight, right? So then the next thing that we stack is like, hey, let's shift your priorities on your food choices. Let's don't count anything. I just want you to eat things that are more whole foods. And they lose another 10, 20, 30 pounds. And now they get to now they're stacking 2 skills together. And it was like, hey, Keith, you're ready for it, man. Let's start building your squat.
There's 3.
And then now we start stacking their third one. And I'm assuming, like, I didn't tell them, like, hey, like, we've just built the walking, the non-exercise stuff by itself. Now they're really shifting in terms of whole foods, and now they're doing strength. And this works so well because they're doing it in little bite sizes. They're getting to a point where they spend enough time with the skill that it requires little to no effort. It just becomes natural, right? And then they just keep stacking. And those that I found that come to me, I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm doing everything. I feel like I'm not losing the last pieces of body fat. It's because they're missing one or two of those elements.
Yeah,
or
those are the big ones.
Or they've done some of those elements and they just stopped doing them. Right?
Like me with the walking.
Dude, yeah.
Or a job change.
Yeah.
Like a job change. Oh, great, I got this promotion or whatever, and it's like, oh, I used to walk a ton and now I'm sitting, and you don't even really know that it happened.
Yeah.
And it's just like once you check off those big boxes, and you're still not seeing results, which is like pretty rare. But if you get those boxes, now we can like almost figure it out. Like it's easier to kind of figure out. If you're not doing the big things, you can't like point it at one tiny little detail. If the big boxes aren't changed, but then you could start looking at the smaller things, and then everybody's going to be really individualized there.
Yeah. If all those three things are happening, we won't go over it for this episode, but I think the big thing is now stress.
Yeah.
Right. How are you handling that stress? But a lot of times you focus on those big three, whole foods, you're exercising regularly, you're doing your walking, you're doing some strength training, your stress actually starts to go down. And then again, like I've never seen someone that had all those three that are just elevated in massive amounts of stress.
Yeah.
They have some stress, but then it's like,
the only thing that I've seen is where they try and push for the next goal.
Yeah.
And then they just start doubling all those things.
Let's just double everything.
I'm like, or like, all right, so I'm now at a 2,000 calorie deficit. I'm going to cut that in to 1,000.
Yeah.
Oh, I run
5 miles.
5 miles a week. I'm going to do 10. And now it's like, now you're just adding more activity, which is a form of stress.
Yeah.
But once you add too much, and then you're starting to reduce the calories even more, that could kind of backfire on you. And like that is pretty rare though.
It's
like,
rare. Those are
but it happens. Like you're
you're
like, wow, you did so well. Like you're an animal now.
Yeah.
But now you got to peel back, and like because we have different goals here.
Yeah.
And that's almost like one of those like good problems to have.
Right.
Like, but I've been there too, where you're like, oh wow, I haven't had a rest day in a month, and it's like, and am I really seeing progress? Like I don't know, maybe I should change things, or I'm not getting great sleep. Maybe I'm not eating enough, or maybe there's something else at work that's stressing me out. So I got to make sure that that kind of stress is taken care of, so that I could have more of the good stress.
Yeah.
But again, that could be that's more of like a very specific
Those
type
are
of
like
person.
the nutty.
But it could happen for sure.
I've seen that's like a trainer thing that a trainer would try to do.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah. So okay, so let's leave these guys with some tactics, because now we went of kind of an overall on a bunch of them. What are like one or two things?
I think I love the phrase like you do an audit of your kitchen.
Okay.
Snack pantry. If we want to start with the ultra processed foods, is like you do just an audit. Just go in your fridge and look inside of your fridge.
Of ultra processed.
Look in your fridge. Look in the cabinet.
Yeah.
Like what's in there.
Nice.
And that just gives you a little bit of awareness piece too. Like one of my friends, he's just like a normal guy. He's not like overweight or anything like that. But he came over and he was like messing with me, and he was just like, I've never seen anyone that doesn't have snacks in their house. And then he was like opening and just going through everything. He's like, blueberries don't count as a snack.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I don't.
Cheese.
Yeah, because I don't have them in the house. And it's like, some people might say like, oh, I can't lose weight, and then they open up their cabinet and there's like a million delicious ultra processed stuff in there.
I love that.
Which is just like, it's gonna get you at some point.
Yeah.
You can walk by that cabinet 6 days of the week. The 7th day you're gonna eat something, and then you're not gonna be able to stop.
Yeah.
So that kind of idea of like, what's the audit? Kitchen audit, and then that has a bunch of kind of avenues you can go down too, because then now you got to look at the rest of your family.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, that's not my Pop-Tart. That's my wife's Pop-Tart.
Right.
But I'm going to eat her Pop-Tart one day.
Yeah.
What are your kids eating if you have kids? So it's like, again, it's just like an awareness piece. Just open up the cabinet and look at it.
Yeah. I guess let me add a second step to that, because we want to add some tacticals. So audit first. The second part is just to try to go into 80-20. 80% whole foods, very limited. Maybe there's some processed foods, but not ultra processed.
Yeah.
Like some processed foods can be like, even frozen berries, I think, is considerably processed because it's processing but then we're talking about like things that can just shelf life.
Yeah, shelf life kind of thing. And also, but it doesn't mean open up your cabinet and throw everything out.
Right.
Just like maybe the next trip to the grocery store, let's go for 80-20.
Yeah.
And then obviously those things will start to move out of the cabinet eventually.
100%. Okay. And then the third step is to start doing some type of strength training, right? Try to add muscle. Like I dare you to get bulky.
Yeah.
It's really hard to. Try to get bulky and be like, Rose, you made me too bulky. It's very hard, especially if you have those two.
And if you're already doing it, maybe it's just you're not tracking it.
Yeah.
And you don't know if you're getting stronger or if you're progressing. That's another thing too, because I feel like there's guys that have been going to the gym for 20 years and they're still doing 3 sets of 10 on the bench press
at 135.
At 135, like on Mondays. Like that's another thing too, because I don't want people to be like, well, I do strength train. It's like you do, but are you like paying attention to what's going on when you strength train? So obviously, if you're not doing any at all, just adding some is great. If you're already doing it, like, are you keeping track of what you're doing?
Yeah.
And I hope that's not too overwhelming sounding, but it's like, if you do 3 sets of 10 today with 135, how about next week 3 sets of 11? Like, I don't know, just something to progress it.
If you're not struggling on the last 2 reps, I think that's an indication that you can go up.
Yeah.
Right. If you're like questionable, if you might not need a spot on the last 2 reps, you can probably go up a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a really, really great indicator, especially if you don't have a trainer there with you. Right. So start doing some strength training 2 to 3 times out of the week can be a massive change. And then the final one is just, dude, up your steps.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you're not good at step, if you don't like walking.
Your iPhone does it. If you just keep it in your pocket all day, it'll track your steps.
Yeah.
Do it for a couple of days. Try and get a weekend day in there.
Yeah.
If it's really not a big deal, if you have an Apple Watch, just look at it. Look at 7 days. What was your average steps? Really easy way to kind of start.
Yeah. If you're not, so this is another one, because some people don't like walking, and I've had some clients that hate walking. I just tell them, I was like, pick an area of the house, renovate it, man. Right?
Yeah.
Or if you want to go to your backyard, clean it up, go for it. Right? Or if you want to play with your kids for 45 minutes, that'll count too.
What do you think people hate walking for?
I don't know. They just like, it just seems,
I hear it all.
It's just like the whole meditative thing. It's like some people don't like to meditate because it's just boring.
I was gonna say
I get
boring.
that.
Or it just seems like athletes or ex-athletes, like it's just like it's not hard enough, so it's like
they have to make it harder
worth doing.
They have to run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be something kind of low level energy expenditure that
they just have to move more. Yeah.
Or you're right, like some project, like you've been meaning to clean out your garage for 2 years. Like, go do that. Like,
do that. Put 45 minutes, and I guarantee you're gonna sweat a bunch out.
And your steps are gonna go up.
Dude, your steps will go up a little bit, and then like, dude, they're sweating a bunch.
Yeah.
So guys, kind of all over the place. Hopefully, you guys got some tactics from this. Keith, thank you for coming, man.
Yeah, not so bad for unscripted.
Yeah, not bad at all. I'll see you guys later. If you guys have questions on other stuff, just comment below, and I'll see you guys the next episode. Peace.